The Los Angeles Lakers had a disappointing finish to their 2021 campaign after they were knocked out in 6 games to the Phoenix Suns. To be fair, it wasn't all their fault. Unfortunately, the team got hit by the injury bug and it took away all of their momentum from the regular season. With the team only getting older and the championship of 2020 now in the distant past, there is a big looming question for them this offseason. What's next? In today's video, I'll be discussing what I believe is the ideal offseason for the Lakers and how they can retool and build towards more championship success next season. Before we start, if you're new here and enjoyed the video, be sure to subscribe for more NBA content like this. I'm trying to reach 18,000 subscribers, so all support would be greatly appreciated. Anyway, with that being said, let's talk about the Los Angeles Lakers. Firstly, before we get into what's next for the team and the off-season moves that they should make, we first need to understand what the problems are with the team. The biggest problem in my view for the Lakers this past season was the lack of a consistent third option. In the playoffs, you really need a consistent third guy who can step up, hit shots, create good looks, etc. while sitting behind the 2 main stars, in this case LeBron and AD. That way, if one of them has an off game, you still have some reliable help to carry the load. We saw the utmost importance of that the last 2 seasons for the Clippers. In 2020, the Clippers lacked a third option, so when PG struggled big time in then the bubble, it came back to bite them hard. This year though, they had Reggie Jackson, and he made a world of difference. He's a huge reason why they went to the Western Conference Finals and won several games with Kawhi Leonard on the sidelines. Finding that third option, a star or not, is going to be essential for the Lakers next season when running it back. Another problem with the Lakers this past season was their shooting. Out of all the contenders, they were probably one of the worst from range, and their shooters were pretty inconsistent all season. Fixing that is going to be key to having another shot at the chip again in 2022. So, with those issues listed and out of the way, let's get into what's next for the LA Lakers. Let's talk about who the Lakers should keep from their current lineup first for next season, as they will be the key to their success. The first 2 that the Lakers will obviously keep are LeBron James and Anthony Davis. It goes without saying really that these 2 are the most instrumental pieces to any Lakers success, and it's obvious LA will need them again when running it back, so they'll be on the roster through 2022. Another player I think the Lakers definitely keep is Talen Horton-Tucker. THT has a bunch of potential and is improving with every game. Give him some more experience and he'll be a valuable role player for them moving forward. I doubt they trade him right now, but if he's in any talks, I hope he does become off limits because he's been great for the Lakers and should be a member of their squad moving forward. Finally, KCP and Alex Caruso are must-keeps in my opinion on this team. Both bring a lot of heart on defense and help establish the defensive identity of the team. Caruso is a fan favorite, but he also plays a vital role in defense, and KCP's shooting, though streaky, is ever so important for a team that's been pretty poor in that area all season long. The Lakers don't really have a lot of room to move this offseason. Though I think it's possible to trade for a third option, I also think it may be a tad unlikely, so keeping their best role players around will be key to their success next season if they can't end up landing that third guy. There's only so much they can do. They don't really have a ton of cap space or assets to play with, so I don't think trading away either of those 2 guys would serve any benefit. With that being said now though, let's talk about some of the moves that LA can make this offseason in order to upgrade their roster. Firstly, what are some trades the Lakers could make for a third option? As I mentioned, the lack of a third guy really hurt the Lakers in the playoffs this season with injuries to both AD and LeBron, so finding another scorer to assist in that area would be great. I've seen a lot of people try link Damian Lillard to the squad, but if we use common sense, it's obvious that just can't happen. If Dame did become available, I highly doubt the Lakers would be able to put together a package to secure Dame anyway. They just don't have the assets to pull something like that off. Lillard would be a great fit on the team and solve all of the Lakers' problems, don't get me wrong. However, there is just no tangible way for the Lakers to acquire him. With that said though, all hope is not lost for LA, as there are still a couple of other options that I think they can target to get that valuable third option that they need. The Lakers may have just enough assets-wise to make a move for a couple of guys who would tremendously help the team, and those two players are Goran Dragic or Spencer Dinwiddie. Both of those two have really solid scoring abilities and are great creators overall, so they'll be able to increase the scoring depth of the team. Dragic was instrumental to the Heat's deep playoff run in 2020, proving his capability to be a reliable third option on a championship caliber team. He's starting to age a bit, but he's still got a couple of seasons of solid basketball left in him, so I think he lines up well according to the timeline of the Lakers roster. Dinwiddie, on the other hand, has lost his role on the Nets after the blockbuster Harden trade, and with guys like Bruce Brown stepping up big time as valuable role players for Brooklyn, it's hard to see him finding consistent minutes long term. After his ACL injury, it's unknown what his play level will be, and how similar he is to his old form once he returns, so luckily for the Lakers, that probably makes him a lot more affordable. However, even with that injury concern, Dinwiddie has proven to be an extremely solid player who can give teams buckets nightly, averaging over 20 points per game in his last healthy season. In 2020, a big reason why the Nets were still able to make the playoffs, even with Kyrie and KD constantly injured, was because of the play of Dinwiddie, and I believe he can provide great value to the Bucks. He increases their number of offensive weapons and will more than likely be the sixth man of the team and run the second unit, which again is very important to Los Angeles, who have been exposed to lack consistent scorers outside of their star duo this past season. As he's still coming off an injury and his value is probably pretty low due to a lot of question marks around his health, I think an exchange of Kyle Kuzma and the 22nd pick from the Lakers would be enough to land him this offseason if a trade does happen, and I think that can work for Dragic too. Maybe chuck in another solid player or a pick for Dragic, but all in all, those two guys are very realistic targets for the Lakers that can help them in a lot of ways next season. Now looking to free agency, the big question for the Lakers would be whether they are trying to re-sign Dennis Schroeder or not. Rumors report that the Lakers are unhappy with Schroeder, and also Schroeder wants a lot of money. So if I'm the Lakers here, I try to re-sign him, but also be sure to not overpay. Yes, while Schroeder is a great player, if you have to let him walk because he's asking for too much, do so, because there are probably equally as good options out there for a lot less. Schroeder has been a solid player for the team, but doesn't really move the needle greatly in terms of title contention. He can add a lot off the bench, but it is replaceable. So if he is asking for too much, I'd say over 20 mil a year, just let him go. As I mentioned earlier, keeping Caruso and Holton Tucker by re-signing them is a must in my opinion, but I think if the Lakers are also able to keep Markieff Morris and Wesley Matthews for relatively cheap, then they should re-sign them as well. As though they can be streaky shooters, they are still pretty solid, which is needed in their system currently. However, the Lakers could also probably find some other cheap shooters to sign elsewhere that may be more consistent than some of the key shooters they've had this past season. Some shooters I think they could snag that would be relatively cheap are Sterling Brown, who I've really liked on the Rockets this past season, Edmund Sumner, or Wayne Ellington. All of them are consistent spot-up shooters and all shot above 40% last season from the three-point line. So they'd provide help off the bench and spread the defense, which as I've said, would be important for LeBron and AD, maximizing their success. Finally, the one last thing the Lakers should do next season is switch up their system a bit. I don't mean have a coaching change, I just mean they should focus on their strengths more. One way to do that is to play Anthony Davis at the 5 with LeBron and chuck shooters around the two of them. LeBron with spacing is extremely scary, even if he is on the decline right now. He's still elite as it is, and Davis is fantastic when he's put at the 5, much more than when he's played as a power forward. I feel like those underwhelming minutes at the 4 held Davis back a bit this season from becoming the dominant player we are used to seeing. And maybe that's also because they wanted to load manage AD after the short turnaround, which is fair enough, but they're gonna have plenty of time to recover into next season. To me, it's time to see more minutes at the center for AD. The Lakers are always better when he's on the floor at that position, so it's time to go all in on that. It can make the duo of LeBron and AD lethal once again. But overall, this is what I believe the Lakers should do this offseason. They need a consistent, reliable third option scorer, and I think players like Dragic or Dinwiddie are very obtainable to fill that void. Re-signing Caruso and THT would be ideal. I think they're key players to the core around LeBron and AD, so bringing them back would be good. And either re-signing shooters or finding new ones for cheap to provide LBJ and Davis more spacing will be important too. So guys like Wayne Ellington, Sterling Brown, or re-signing Wesley Matthews would be good. The Lakers have a tough decision to make with Dennis Schroeder, but personally, I think there is no need to overpay for him. If he's asking for over $20 million a year, just let him walk. If he's not, you can re-sign him, and I think either way, that's a win for the Lakers. Los Angeles were disappointing in 2021, but they've proven they can be a championship team with this core. Really, to me, they just need a consistent third option behind AD and LeBron, and that will be good enough to send them back to the NBA Finals, because the duo of LeBron and AD is just that good. I think people forget how amazing they were in that bubble run. We'll have to wait and see what the Lakers end up doing, but if they're able to pull some of those moves off that I've mentioned today, I think it certainly sends them back in the right direction in the quest for another NBA championship. And that will conclude the video. What do you guys think of this? What should the Lakers do next to you? Are there any trades you think they must make? Let me know all your thoughts down in the comments below. If you enjoyed the video, be sure to drop it a like and subscribe. But with that being said, I am out. Peace.